Joachim Kroll, the Ruhr hunter, was in some ways the archetypal serial killer. He was a nervous, sexually inadequate loner who preyed mostly on young girls and teenagers. What made him unusual was that his killing spree did not burn itself out in a frenzy, but went on at a steady pace for over 20 years before he was finally caught. Joachim Georg Kroll was born on the 17th of April, 1933, in Hindenburg, towards the east of Germany near the Polish border. Much of his childhood spent during the terrible years of the Second World War and its aftermath was a time of great poverty and widespread starvation in Germany. Kroll's father was taken prisoner by the Russian army during the war and never returned. In 1947, Kroll and his mother fled Russian-occupied East Germany to live in the heavily industrialized Ruhr area of West Germany. Mother's death, the event that seems to have tipped the shy, withdrawn Joachim Kroll into madness, was the death of his mother in January 1955. Just 3 weeks later, on the 8th of February, Kroll killed for the first time, raping and stabbing to death 19-year-old Irmgard Schrell in a barn near the town of Ludinghausen. Just how many people he went on to kill over the next 2 decades will never be known. The only murders that can be traced to him are those he confessed to after his eventual arrest, and he was not sure that he remembered all of them. However, we do know that his next victim was 12-year-old Erika Schletter, whom he raped and strangled in Kirchhellen. In 1957, Kroll moved to Duisburg, an industrial city in the Ruhr, where he lived until his eventual arrest. On the 16th of June 1959, he marked his new territory with the rape and murder of Clara Frieda Tesmer in the Rheinwiesen district of the city. Little more than a month later, on the 26th of July, he raped and strangled 16-year-old Manuela Nott in Essen, another major Ruhr town. This time, however, Kroll took his perversion one step further. He cut slices from her buttocks and her thighs, took them away, and ate them. The police later arrested a compulsive confessor named Horst Otto for this murder. Taste for human flesh. Then came a 3-year gap before, sometime in 1962, Kroll raped and strangled Barbara Bruder in the town of Burscheid. That same year, on the 23rd of April, Petra Gysi was abducted from a fair in Dinslaken-Bruckhausen, raped and strangled. Once again, he cut off the girl's buttocks to eat. From now on, this was a regular trademark. Kroll had clearly acquired the taste for human flesh. Little more than a month later, on the 4th of June, 1962, he indulged himself once again. This time, the victim was 13-year-old Monika Tafel, who was found dead in a cornfield in Walsum, with portions of flesh once again removed from her buttocks. This rash of murders provoked an uproar, and the people of the town of Walsum soon identified Walter Quicker, a 34-year-old pedophile, as a suspect. He hanged himself soon afterwards. Lover's Lane. Kroll appears to have lain low for the next 3 years, perhaps scared by the intensity of the investigation in Walsum. Then, on the 22nd of August 1965, he crept up on a couple parked in a lover's lane in Grossenbaum, Duisburg. He stabbed the man to death, but before he could attack the woman, she escaped. Another year passed, and then, on the 13th of September 1966, Kroll strangled Ursula Rolling in a park in Marl, north of Duisburg. Ursula's boyfriend Adolf Schickel was the suspect this time, and he too soon killed himself. 3 months later, Kroll returned to Essen and abducted his youngest victim yet, 5-year-old Ilona Harke. He took her by train and bus to a woodland area called the Feldbachtal. There Kroll raped her then, in a variation that he later put down to simple curiosity. He drowned her. The following year, on the 22nd of June, Kroll lured 10-year-old Gabrielle Putman into a cornfield and showed her pornographic pictures. She fainted but was saved by the arrival of passers-by. Kroll managed to escape from the scene. Innocent victims. Once again, he waited before raping and murdering his next victim. This time, it was an older woman, 61-year-old Maria Hetken, whom he raped and strangled in her home on the 12th of July, 1969. 2 years later, on the 21st of May, 1970, he raped and strangled 13-year-old Jutta Rahn as she walked home from school. Her neighbor, Peter Shea, was suspected and spent 15 months in prison for the crime. This time, 6 more years went by before Kroll raped and strangled another schoolgirl, Karin Tupfer, in Dinslakenwörde. Then, on the 3rd of July, 1976, he took his final and youngest victim, 4-year-old Marion Ketter, whose disappearance provoked a large investigation by neighbors and police. At this point, it seems that Kroll was crying out to be caught. A local resident in the block of flats where he lived complained to him that his toilet was blocked. Kroll apparently replied that the reason for this was that it was full of guts. The neighbor did not know what to make of this, but a call to a plumber soon showed that Kroll was not joking. The child's lungs and other organs were blocking the pipe. The police were immediately called to Kroll's apartment, where they found bags of human flesh in the refrigerator and a child's hand boiling on the stove, along with some carrots and potatoes. Kroll was arrested and promptly confessed to his whole 20-year history of murder. 3 years later, the case finally came to court, and after 3 more years of drawn-out proceedings, he was finally found guilty on 8 counts of murder and 1 of attempted murder. He was duly sentenced to 9 terms of life imprisonment. On the 1st of July, 1991, he died of a heart attack in prison.